Hello, I'm calling from San Francisco. I'm delighted to be present via Zoom and delighted to be sending my greetings to members of the IFF and to all who are attending this annual meeting of the IFF, either in person or via Zoom. I'm honored to be a member of the organization for now more than a decade and to be part of the Academic Council. I'm also grateful for the friendships that have resulted from my participation in and support for IFF. Thank you, too, for the organizers for this invitation to make brief remarks on the topic of how can the market and governments better play their roles in sustainable development. In the 5 minutes I have, I would like to underscore 3 points. First, the importance and value of leadership in checking climate risk and environmental damage. Second, to note what's at stake. And 3, to highlight ongoing possibilities for IFF as an influential voice in this sphere. First, on leadership. It turns out that November has been a very extraordinary month. COP27 concluded in Egypt with an historic agreement to provide loss and damage funding for vulnerable nations. It's unlikely this agreement would have been reached without some measure of U.S.-China collaboration leading up to the final decisions taken. The COP27 loss and damage funding agreement, followed by a mere 6 days, a landmark meeting between Presidents Biden and Xi at the G20 summit in Indonesia. By virtually all accounts, this opened the door for the gradual resumption of the bilateral dialogue on issues that include the climate. Since then, the reports of renewed communication between the Chinese delegation in international climate negotiations, led by Xi Chenghu, and the U.S. delegation, led by John Kerry, have raised hopes that the talking will lead to progress in identifying solutions at the government-to-government level. In turn, it's hoped that these exchanges will contribute to greater capacity for identifying bilateral, regional, and ultimately global solutions to climate change and other pressing environmental issues. Pragmatic leadership was a critical driver in this instance. It's as if the leaders on both sides of the Pacific wanted to pay heed that climate risk is global risk, and solutions are not viable if developed in a vacuum. Still, these hopes are but the greenest of shoots in what is otherwise a very difficult geopolitical and economic context. In both our countries, the economic context is challenging. In the U.S., the political context is complicated at the domestic level by the fact a divided Congress takes office in the new year, and internationally by wary business interests when the U.S.-China is an issue. Second, what's at stake, especially in Asia? Here, I'd like to address the point briefly with an anecdote from Henry Kissinger's most recent book on leadership. In a profile of Lee Kuan Yew, Mr. Kissinger quotes Singapore's founding prime minister as taking issue with an Asian diplomat. Said the Asian diplomat, "When elephants fight, the grass gets trampled." Mr. Lee countered quickly, "When elephants make love, the grass gets trampled." Respected on both sides of the Pacific, the late PM's words are a colorful reminder of the necessity of investing hope and taking action towards successful outcomes and avoiding a zero sum in the vital relationship between our two countries. My third point emphasizes IFF as a relevant voice in how markets and governments can better play their roles in resolving climate risk. IFF, with its influential membership, has a unique capacity to exercise quiet diplomacy to eliminate greenhouse gas emissions. Indeed, IFF is already on this path. There is the work that got underway in December 2021, when IFF established the Green Finance Working Group together with the Paulson Institute in the US and Goldman Sachs. Together, they set out to engage senior level executives in the US, the EU, and in China, who already were playing critical roles in decarbonization decision-making. Prior, the Paulson Institute had established its own Green Finance Center in 2018, which included a US-China Green Fund. Again, the emphasis was on driving market solutions to climate change. Combined, these efforts reflect IFF's potential to influence positive change, in this instance in global warming, and particularly its impact on China and Asia. It's no mean task. According to Goldman Sachs estimates, what's needed is nothing less than $100 to $150 trillion of investment globally over the next 30 years to decarbonize the world. Upwards of $65 trillion, or over half of the total demand, is needed in Asia. Still, where there is challenge, there is also opportunity. So what else might the IFF be doing? Is there room for a parallel initiative, for example, that is patterned on track to diplomacy? This could seek to engage the relevant networks of IFF's individual members with the objective of contributing to the pipeline of potential solutions. It's an idea. There are undoubtedly others just as good, if not better. Getting there requires leadership and initiative, guided by influential voices that contribute to the market and governments playing their part, with conviction informing their contribution. I thank you very much for this opportunity. I wish I could be there. Hopefully next year we'll all be able to convene in person. Have a wonderful meeting, and I'll be tuning in for parts of it. Thank you. Good night.